Well, First Solutions in that report also projected inflation to average 25% this year. And as we know, the hikes in inflation we are seeing is partly as a result of crude oil prices pushing up the cost of transport. So next, we turn to the oil market because there is an interesting development. Brent crude hitting three digits after selling below $100 a barrel for a while. What is triggering this surge? Joining me, energy strategist Dr. Yusuf Suleimana. And just as we're about to go on air, Doc, Brent crude was trading close to $102 a barrel. What is causing prices to go up?
Yeah, thank you very much, Darrell, and good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to your charity viewers in Ghana and across the globe. Yeah, so certainly this is a development that we were not expecting, especially when the market is already very hot. If we observe the market last 2 weeks, it appears it was trying to settle around the 90s. And so with the 90s, we're hoping that, with the quantitative tightening across the globe going on, that should have been enough to be able to cap all this, to stem, this high rocketing or the skyrocketing of petroleum prices at the pumps, which is probably due to the crude oil prices going up in the international space. However, in recent times or in recent days, I think we are seeing, a gradual increase again. Crude oil has started flirting, around, the 3-digit figure, which is not a good thing. We just hope that it will just flirt around that and come back to the 90s. Because with crude oil prices very high and also, our currency not in very good position, I think it will only bring a lot of pressure on the fight on inflation. And the reason why I think it's going to bring a lot of pressure on the fight on inflation, if it continues in this trajectory or if it stays like this, if you look at this current inflation that we have globally, every inflation or a recession tendency has a driver. And in this case, it's undoubtedly the high energy cost that is driving this high inflation we have globally. And so if you are not able to cap or have control over the high energy cost as we speak now, it means that it's going to be very, very difficult to fight inflation. It is going to be very difficult, which will mean that, the only formula or the most used formula that, economists use to do is to do this, what we call quantitative, easing, where policy rates are high here and out just to increase the interest rate. Yes, that is the method that we have now, but that method is a double-edged sword, rather, because if you're not very careful and you quantitatively tighten yourself to the extent that, the interest rate hikes, we hike the interest rate to the extent that, we could end up, eating ourselves or, tightening ourselves into recession of a sort. So we have to, globally, we have to tread with caution and we have to, approach this surgically. Where we are going to be increasing this, policy rates, we have to be careful that we don't, tighten ourselves into recession. And it is only the formula available as we speak now, because that's the only formula. If inflation is going up, it is interest rates that you hike to be able to, get the inflation to peak. So yes, if this trajectory continues, it means that we might not be getting inflation pressures peaking at any time soon. And that is not so good for the global community.
And we're talking about this. It's not just Brent crude going up in terms of prices. The price of natural gas also skyrocketing.
Yes, that's a fact also. Unfortunately, even though crude was trending downwards, natural gas was trending upward. And the reason being that, I think the issue for natural gas issue, it has to do a lot with the Russian crisis. If you observe Russia, Europe depend about 40% of their gas supply, from Russia. And the fallout of this incident came very, very drastically, and it hit Europe, drastically in a way that gas supply to Europe has dwindled drastically. And we are also told that in these coming days, maybe from 31st of October, to early September, gas is going to be zeroed, to Europe. And that's going to be unprecedented. Imagine, though the populace in Europe have been cited that there's a potential that Russian crisis could send gas to zero, but all the same, you see energy costs skyrocketing here and here, everywhere, especially in Europe. So yes, the peaking, I mean, the LNG or gas going up, it has a lot to do with Russian crisis because Russia is #2, gas producer globally. And so to the extent that, I mean, they are cutting gas or their gas supply is being stifled, to the global energy community, that will have dire consequences.
You talk about the implications on the fight against inflation. So what are the real options for the global economy in cooling off these inflationary pressures?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. Like I started, every inflation has a root cause. Though there are multiplicity of factors that can bring about inflation. But anyhow you look at it, you say goods and services going up, transportation costs going up, all is because of energy cost. And I think the energy cost is the driver of this inflation. It's undoubtedly, though there are a lot of other variables that is feeding into it. So the immediate thing that comes to mind for me, if the global community can harness efforts to stop Russian crisis, to bring Russian crisis to a halt. In other words, if they can find a lasting solution to Russian crisis. At this moment, it's beginning to take a kind of a status quo where, they don't know where it is going, and the war is trying to be something like that is going to be protracted. But that is not so good for the global energy community. So yes, the immediate thing that comes to mind, if the global energy community could help to solve Russian crisis, and I think the West, they are capable of doing that. If they can help to solve Russian crisis, it is going to be a win-win. And the reason being that if that is done, I think the supply chain dynamic that is currently so constrained, it will be debottlenecked. And so, flow of goods and services will be enhanced. The other thing I also look at globally is possibly to see how, the global community can, coordinate these policy risk hikes. As I see it now, it is almost like everybody for himself or herself and God for us all. Just imagine U.S. tightening, increasing interest rate and other tightening this, their policy rates. And the unfortunate thing is that they do that to strengthen their currency. And the advanced world, if the currency in U.S. appreciates, it means that the currency in the developing world or those who are highly dependent on the greenback, their currency will weaken. So that's another headwind that is facing us. As long as this quantitative easing continues to persist, it means that U.S. currency is going to continue to be strengthened. And they have right to do that. And that to mean that we are going to be, those who are going to be impacted again, in this kind of thing. So yes, there's going to be hard times, but we hope that, things are going to get tougher, but it will get, before it gets easier, yeah.
Yeah, we just have a minute, so I'll just ask you quickly, what can we do locally? If you ask me, it doesn't excite anymore if prices of Brent crude goes up or down, because right now much is dependent on how our local currency also fares. And with the city going down against major trading currencies, we've seen that there's not been much changes when it comes to the price of fuel at the pumps, depending on whether when it goes down. So what are the local strategic options we can be looking at right now?
Yeah, so quickly, if you are no more getting inflows, you need to be able to cut your outflows. It's as easy as that. It's as simple as that. Because now we are not getting inflows because the international space is constrained. Everybody is struggling, so we cannot get the inflows. So the best option is to cut our outflows. Cutting our outflows means that if we can make concerted effort to add value to the raw material, that is fundamental. The news that you carried before, I came in, I saw that a lot of money coming in and stuff like that. That's an excellent thing, but these are short-term measures, Darren. We need to look at medium to long-term measures. And medium to long-term measures means we simply have to make concerted effort to take advantage of this particular crisis. And what advantage can we take on this particular crisis? Let's make effort to add value to our raw material. And what comes to mind is crude oil.
Okay.
We have a refinery. Let's get our local refinery into business. And I think that is a serious pressure relief for the city and for most of this element that is running, out of control. Yeah.
Dr. Yusuf Sulemana, energy strategist, appreciate your time with us this afternoon. You're watching The Marketplace. We're taking a short break. When we come back, we'll check out what is happening at the Accra International Conference Center, where the EcoBank Journeys Habitat Fair is underway. Stay with us.